Okay, so let's cover some review. Some of you probably took English 101 last semester. Maybe it's been a summer ago, maybe it's been a year ago, maybe it's been 20 years. Everybody, just so you know, it's not uncommon to go a long period of time without having to write an essay. So this is something that I'm just going to do a basic review of the elements of a formal essay that should be in every essay that you write for this course. Every essay is broken up into 3 parts, and I'm going to give you some visual representation. So we have an introduction, we have the body of the essay, and then we have the conclusion. Now, the reason I draw the introduction as an upside down triangle is to kind of give you a visualization of how an introduction should be structured. Introductions are the first thing that the reader is going to read, and just like if you were to speak to somebody, you probably wouldn't jump right into something that's really deep or something that's very, or into like some kind of an argument. You probably wouldn't jump right into that. You would say, hello, how you doing? Or you would say something to get your audience's attention. That is the goal of the introduction. The introduction is going to start in a broad place and work its way to a very specific thing. That very specific thing is what we call the thesis statement. Okay, so what is a thesis statement? Well, basically, and this is also something you can find in your textbook, but essentially a thesis statement is your claim. This is the claim that you're going to demonstrate the truth of in the body of the essay. So some rules just to remember about thesis statements, and you may want to write this down. One rule is that you never use I or in my opinion, or you basically are always going to use third person in a thesis statement. The reason for this is that you're trying to prove the truth of the statement. If I were to say, I think that Metallica is the best band ever, you would say, okay, that's just your opinion, right? Well, I can't really prove whether or not I believe that because it is what it is. I just told you I believed it. Okay, fine. But if I were to say Metallica is the best band ever or Metallica is the worst band ever, then that's a claim. That's something that I could try to prove with evidence, or I could try to prove using some of the rhetorical appeals, and basically I would have to give you reasons to believe that. So remember, a thesis statement is always in the third person. It's something that you're never going to say the words in my opinion. Obviously it's your opinion, right? And it does need to be something that's opinionated. That's the other rule. So your thesis statement would not be water freezes at 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Because that is a fact. That is something that, okay, yes, that's true. You don't have to write an essay to prove that because it just is. So a thesis statement needs to be your claim. It's something that you're going to argue or prove or demonstrate the truth of. And you're going to do that in the body of the essay itself. The body of the essay is where all of the points that you're going to make, all of the evidence to prove that thesis statement, you're going to have multiple paragraphs. And I know many people get through classes and they've written just a 5-paragraph essay. Forget that. You're going to write a lot more paragraphs than just 3 body paragraphs in this class. So you remember paragraphing, when it comes to paragraphs, it's one topic per paragraph. So if you switch topics, or if you're in the same topic but you're going to kind of change directions, maybe it's a subtopic of a larger topic, well, in that case you'll start a new paragraph. You're not going to just have one big long chunk of text. Paragraphs are great. The human eye appreciates paragraphs. And just to demonstrate this, if you've ever been on social media, maybe your friends on Facebook or whatever, and they just have this long chunk of text, a lot of times I just scroll right by that. Maybe they're pouring their heart out and it's something that's really important that they want to get across, but it's so intimidating to the eye because it's not broken up. And you would want to make sure that you're not intimidating your reader. You're not wanting to make this a chore to read your essay. And you want to make it so that it's very well organized. Organization is something that you're graded on. How well do I organize my thoughts? And that's something that each paragraph is going to demonstrate. Okay, I'm going to talk about this topic, then this topic, then this topic, then this topic. And these are all going back to demonstrate the truth of or to prove my claim, and that is the thesis statement. In the conclusion, we generally, as a rule, we're never going to bring up any new information. The conclusion is just a wrap-up. Okay, so just kind of remember, whenever you're writing your conclusion, you're going to wrap it up. Okay, and oftentimes you're going to find that a good conclusion is an echo of the introduction. An example of that might be if you've ever seen like a documentary. Perhaps it's about black holes and I don't know, you've got somebody who, Morgan Freeman is your narrator. Well, he would start off, normally they don't just start off saying exactly, hey, we're going to talk about black holes in this documentary. Okay, here it starts. Normally they start off with like maybe a little story or some kind of an anecdote that you can relate to. Like, for instance, there's one that I can remember where Morgan Freeman starts this documentary, and it starts off with simply Morgan Freeman talking about when he was a child. And he says, whenever I was a child, I would go to my grandmother's house. And on my grandmother's house, there was a well. And my friends and I would find rocks, and we would throw rocks down this well and try to hear if it ever hit the bottom. And in our imaginations, we believe that this was a well that went on forever and ever, an infinite hole into nothingness, right? Now, notice I didn't talk about black holes, but you already get the connection there. You already get how, okay, we're starting with a broad story, and you can understand already intuitively, oh, I see how this is going to connect with black holes. Well, then the next thing he talks about, and by that time, we've made it probably this far. The next thing he's going to talk about is connecting that idea to the thesis statement. So maybe he might say, scientists are finding that there actually are places in the universe that are infinite dark black holes, and they're called black holes. And basically you can see how that connects. Well, that's what we do up here. Well, once we get down to the conclusion, maybe we echo what we said in the introduction. Maybe we bring up a few of the things that we talked about in the essay itself. We just never bring up new things, any new topics, because this is not the time. The time is here. This is where you bring up all the information, everything new, all the research you've done to back up this claim. But when you get to the conclusion, you simply say, maybe you might say, so just like when I was a child and I went to my grandmother's farm, there are things in the universe that are just as incredible as my imagination was as a child. These are called black holes, and maybe he reviews some of the things that were said in the documentary. So that is just overall the format of a formal essay. This is for every essay you write. This is the format. It's not going to change. Okay, so yes, the jobs that you're going to perform in the actual essay itself, they will vary, but this basic structure is going to be the same for every essay you'll ever write ever. Okay, so this is basic essay formatting. The reason why you have to take this class most likely is that you're going to be in a major that requires you to write essays or do some research, and that's why they want you to understand these things. So that's our job in this whole semester. Our job is to get you ready to continue to say, listen, I understand how to do research. I understand how to write an essay that proves a thesis statement or that demonstrates the truth of that thesis statement. Okay, so let's get started.